Have you ever thought about what you would do if you were ever face to face with a school shooter? We hope you will never have to experience this. You will definitely remember these horror stories the next time you enter the classroom. These people were left traumatized forever. Let's dive into the next stories about 3 people who experienced terrifying lockdown moments in high school. Be prepared and listen closely. You may learn something from this. Welcome to your next Chills Before Sleep. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for us to provide you with more scary stories. Let us know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to enable all notifications. I'm a 39-year-old janitor. I was working at a high school in a small town. One day I was working in the basement during school hours. No students or faculty were in the basement. That is when I heard an announcement being made on the speakers. The principal said that there was an unidentified active shooter in the building. The school was going on a lockdown, and we were supposed to hide and follow the instructions that we had learned during school lockdown drills. I put my mop back into the bucket and hid in the janitor's closet. I was very sure that no one would ever come looking for me here, so I felt safe there. I sat silently in the corner, not making any sound. It was so silent that I could hear the sounds coming from above. I heard gunshots and people screaming. I was scared. I could hear my own heart racing in the quiet. I was afraid for my life. I was also grateful that I was stuck in such a place that no one would ever even think of checking. But I guess I was wrong. A few minutes later, after the gunshots, I heard a knock on the door. Someone was urgently knocking on my door. "Let me in! Let me in!" said an urgent voice. I could recognize the voice. It was Damien. He was a short kid who was a junior in high school. He had a lot of friends, but he was bullied by the seniors due to his stature. I was relieved to hear a familiar voice. I happily let him inside. He came inside as soon as I opened the door. He looked like he was about to pass out. His hoodie was caked with blood. I was scared to see his condition. "Are you okay, Damien?" I asked. He looked very shaken and out of his element. "No," he said. He looked like he was about to break down crying. "What's happening?" I asked, holding him by the shoulders. I tried to shake some sense into him. "Look at me, boy. Tell me what's going on." "Come on, we need to be brave," I told him. "There was a guy upstairs. He shot some people. He shot some seniors," he said, appearing dazed. "Who is it?" I asked. Damien looked at me, his expression unsure. I hugged him to reassure him. "Don't worry, boy," I said. "We'll make it out alive." I asked him to hide behind a shelf. I hid as well. We both stood in silence for a while. Then I could hear police sirens nearby. The sound must have been the sweetest sound I've ever heard in a long while. I saw Damien was crying, and I held him. I thought they were tears of relief. "It's okay," I said as I patted his back. "You're safe now." I heard movement in the basement hallway. It was the police. They announced themselves and kicked open the door before I could open it. They pointed their guns at Damien. I was shocked to see this. They told him to step out, and they put handcuffs on his wrist. I couldn't believe my eyes. Why were they arresting Damien? They took him outside in handcuffs, and one of the officers stayed back to help me. They thought I was being held hostage by Damien. I thought that it must have been a misunderstanding. That is, till I saw the gun outside the closet door. It had blood all over it. I couldn't believe it. I stepped outside the school, lucky to be alive. A few days later, the details were released. Damien had come to the school with an AR-15 and shot the seniors who had been bullying him. He had also shot some other people non-fatally who had tried to stop him. That day he was also going to shoot me, but he couldn't because I had always been kind to him. I mourned the death of the students, and I quit my job at that particular school. I'm a senior in high school. My name is Avery, and I'm 17. Last week, a pretty gruesome event happened in my school. Before I tell you this, I need to tell you about my friend group. I was best friends with a girl named Selena, and I used to hang out with her boyfriend, as well as their group. I have seen her boyfriend before, but I never really actually knew him. We weren't really close, but I knew him through Selena. His name was Eric, and he had everything going for him. He had good grades, and he was the star player on the football team. He was on track to get into Ivy League colleges with a football scholarship. That was until Eric got into a car crash. He had to get his leg operated on, and the doctor told him he will never be able to play again. In an instant, he lost his scholarship, his friends, his popularity, and even Selena. Most of his friends had been around him because of his popularity, and they went away as soon as the popularity did. Selena left him for the same reason. He couldn't afford going to Ivy League anymore, despite his grades, because his family couldn't afford the fees. The saddest part is that it wasn't even his fault. His friends Jason and Sam had been driving the car that night, but they got off without a scratch. Eric began to isolate himself. He wouldn't even come into school anymore. One day during math class, there was an announcement. The school was going into lockdown. A man had been seen entering the premises carrying a gun. Our math teacher, Mr. Olson, shut the door, turned the lights off, and asked all of us to move to the back of the class and sit down on the floor. We did just that and sat in silence, holding our breath. Selena was sitting next to me, holding my hand. The rest of the football team was also there. I was scared, but at least I was with my friends. I truly thought we would make it out alive, but I was wrong. We heard a loud knock at the door. We all shivered in fright. Then the door was broken down by a large man in a hoodie. Mr. Olson stood up and he tried to stop the shooter, but he couldn't. In turn, the shooter shot his leg. I couldn't help but feel like the shooter had deliberately shot him non-fatally. The shooter turned towards us. We saw his face and gasped. It was Eric. "Hey," he said in a soft voice. We were all stunned. I didn't know what to say. Selena was the first to talk. "Eric, baby, don't do this. She was cut off by a shot being fired. Eric had shot her in the chest. All of her other friends recoiled in terror, but that didn't stop him. "Close your eyes," he said in a low, angry tone. I did as he said. I shuddered every time I heard a shot being fired. Then I opened my eyes after the shots stopped. I looked around me. They were all dead. All of his prior friends were dead. I looked up at Eric. I wanted to ask him if he was going to kill me as well, but I did not have the courage. He looked right into my eyes and said, "They abandoned me." And then he put the gun to his chin and shot himself. I screamed in terror as Eric's limp body hit the ground. Mr. Olson and I were the only ones left alive in the classroom. I started crying. A police officer found us in around a half an hour. He was taken aback on seeing the bloodbath. He gently ushered me out of the room and took me to the hospital. I attended all of my classmates' funerals. I still have PTSD and survivor's guilt from the incident, and I go to therapy. I graduated and left town, but I don't think I'll ever be able to forget what happened on that fatal Monday morning. I am a high school English teacher. I teach literature to seniors in high school. One Thursday morning, I was in my class teaching Shakespeare to bored, uninterested students. That's when we heard a gunshot from the hallway. As soon as we heard that, I knew what to do. I asked all of my students to get under their desk and be quiet. I closed the door and turned off the lights. I hid under the teacher's desk as well. There was an announcement on the PA system. We could hear someone's footsteps in the hallway. The room was completely still. You could even hear a pin drop. Right then, I heard someone struggling against the latch of the door. The person was putting a lot of pressure on the door. He was about to open it up. That's when I ran from my position under the desk and ran to the door. I threw myself against the door to try to stop the shooter from entering the room. I could feel the shooter push hard against the door, but I wouldn't budge. Then the door went slack. I felt no resistance against it anymore. I breathed a sigh of relief, but then I heard a loud noise and felt a sharp pain in my side. I looked down to see my shirt was starting to be covered in blood. My students couldn't help but scream. My ears were ringing. I had been shot. I lost my balance and fell down. The person started trying to open the door again, but I heard another shot and the force from the other side stopped. The police had arrived. They neutralized the shooter and got the door open. I was sent to a hospital and operated on. I was very lucky that the bullet had not hit any vital organs. I was discharged within a week, but I still have to go to therapy to this day. Turns out, the shooter was an old employee of the school. In fact, he and I had been friends. He had been fired after many female students had complained against him. He had come back to take his revenge. After this incident, I got a transfer. I've been trying to forget about this incident, but the scar on my abdomen doesn't let me. Thank you for watching this video. Have you experienced a similar situation or another scary experience? Don't hesitate to submit your story by email or in the comments section down below. Ready for your next chills before sleep? Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for us to provide you with more scary stories. Let us know what you think and don't forget to enable all notifications. Be the first ones to get the chills.